All right, good evening, everybody, and we are live talking about the Arctic blast over the next couple of days, of which will produce some rain, and is already doing so. If you head out tonight or just outside your door, you'll probably notice some drizzle, some mist, very light precip. And while it is light over the next 6 to 8 to 10 hours, through Monday morning, that'll continue to accumulate. And while it will be in very small amounts, less than 1/10 of an inch, through tomorrow morning, that is enough, obviously, to freeze into ice and create problems on roadways, on flyovers, on interstates, on any elevated surface. And while most people have it off tomorrow morning, the road should be relatively quiet, and that's the good news, right? But if you are heading out early tomorrow morning, if you're driving out, seeing family or anything that involves getting out on the roads, you're going to want to be very careful, drive vigilantly, and be very mindful of ice, especially in the morning hours. In the afternoon, it should improve vastly. We'll probably get up to the middle 30s tomorrow, above freezing briefly, but it will remain cold. Tomorrow morning will be damp. Tomorrow evening, this time, it'll be dry, and the skies will start to clear tomorrow night as temperatures remain very, very cold. We'll talk more about that forecast and everything you need to know coming up. First and foremost, it is cold, and it's going to remain very, very cold for the next couple of days. Let's actually switch this out and get a surface map. This is actually a forecast model. And before we get to that, let me load this. And if you have any questions, feel free to comment down below. We're talking about the weather for the next 30 minutes or so. Again, it's cold. You can see in Amarillo, it's 11 degrees. Dallas, 14. Temple at 16. Similar numbers across the Austin area. San Antonio, we're at 25, and it's only 8:50 at night. Now, with breezy winds and cloudy skies, it will be extremely cold overnight. Everywhere, it'll be a widespread freeze. As a matter of fact, we have hard freeze warnings in effect, winter weather advisories in effect for tomorrow, and I believe wind chill warnings for tomorrow morning as well. Temperatures looks like they're at 25 right now. Morning lows should bottom out lower 20s, upper teens for tomorrow morning. And likely about 15 degrees for parts of the hill country. 14, 15 for Fredericksburg. Kerrville tomorrow morning, it's going to be very cold. And of course, when you factor in the winds, that creates the wind chill. And for some parts of our area, wind chill values in the single digits tomorrow morning. So it's going to be extremely cold, and especially across the state where temperatures are going to get down to the single digits. Air temperatures in Dallas, the Panhandle, Central to North Texas, air temperatures likely getting down to the single digits with wind chills near or below zero. It's going to be extremely cold. So before we get to that, here are some of the warnings and watches and advisories that's in effect in our area from Bexar County to the Hill Country towards the Texas coast. A little bit of everything that involves winter weather advisories, wind chill warnings, and hard freeze warnings. Temperatures as low in our area as low as 11 degrees, with wind chills probably either at that level or if not lower than that, just because of how cold it already is at this hour. It's probably going to get even colder. So tomorrow morning, again, MLK Monday. Most have it off. It's a holiday. But if you absolutely have to get out, please avoid any of those elevated surfaces, the highways, and on this map shows you kind of where to avoid. Of course, there's low bridges everywhere. I mean, you know your neighborhood more than we do. So if you know there's a bridge near you or in your neighborhood or outside your neighborhood that you have to travel across tomorrow morning, just go extremely slow if you absolutely have to go out tomorrow morning. But please avoid any unnecessary travel. And most importantly, avoid any elevated surfaces. Anything that's above the ground and not attached to the surface, that'll freeze first. Reason being is because of this right here. People always ask, why do bridges freeze first? And it's just because of how fast bridges lose heat compared to the ground. The ground's connected to the earth, but bridges are above the ground and they're surrounded by freezing air. And as a result, the temperature of that ground, it results in quicker heat loss. And, at this time, right now we're in the middle 20s. And with the rain moving in, it's a bad combination, bad recipe. And that's going to create, elevated surfaces, bridges to freeze first. We went out to on our dinner break, and our cars already had a very thin layer of glazing on there. Very thin layer of ice that involved, obviously, heating up the car a little longer. So if it's already happening now, and with more rain expected overnight, just prepare for a slow-moving morning and account for that extra time, because it will be cold and it will be freezing tomorrow morning for your early Monday. And again, most people have it off, but it's something to keep in mind if you have to get out anywhere. But please avoid any unnecessary travel. So we talked about avoiding, the highways, the elevated surfaces, 1604, 35, 281, 410, anywhere that takes you above the ground into the air on those elevated surfaces. Please avoid tomorrow morning. I imagine some of those flyovers and highways will be closed down. On satellite radar, you can see some snowfall way to the northeast towards Arkansas, parts of Mississippi, Tennessee, Alabama. When you zoom into here, San Antonio, it's dry. However, it's not picking up on that very light precip, that mist, that drizzle. So you can't really see it on radar, but if you step outside for the next 10 to 15 minutes, you'll likely encounter at least some level of that very light drizzle and that very light mist. And we're expecting that to increase through tonight and through tomorrow morning. And we'll show you the forecast model in just a bit. Right now it is bitterly cold. 24 at the airport, 27 at Lackland, 23 in Bernie, Paratus, and Bandera. I think we're already in the teens in the Hill Country, at least Fredericksburg and across Gillespie County. They're down to 19. Now with northerly winds, still breezy overnight, and cloud cover, temperatures should bottom out around 15 degrees in the Hill Country between Kerrville and Fredericksburg. So tomorrow morning it's going to be extremely cold, 15 to 16 on air temperature. San Antonio probably bottoming out tomorrow morning, 6, 7 a.m., likely around 19 to maybe 18 degrees tomorrow morning. Again, factor in the winds, and that'll create wind chill values probably near 10, if not in the single digits, especially across the Hill Country. So it's 8:55, and it's already 24 degrees and 19 in Fredericksburg, so it's going to be very cold. The MLK March has been delayed 1 hour, obviously the weather. So something to keep in mind if you're attending that, and please bundle up if you are attending that, because 28, factor in the winds and some leftover moisture. It is going to be a little icy at times, maybe difficult to be walking around, but through the late morning and early afternoon, things should eventually dry out, and that's the good news. It's primarily going to be a morning event, and rain should come off and taper off on the radar probably about the lunch hour right before, or at least around the start March time for the MLK March. So be careful, dress accordingly. It's going to be extremely cold for the next 24 hours. Here's the hour by hour. Tonight's some patchy light rain, but notice after 1 a.m. tomorrow morning, it really starts to amplify. It starts to increase in coverage. So if you look closely, anywhere from Eagle Pass to Del Rio, obviously above freezing, above 32. So most of that will be just regular old rain. But anywhere from Cotulla to the Hill Country and that area where it's pink, that is still rain, but it's representing freezing rain and freezing drizzle, and that'll freeze on contact. So it's falling from the sky, but once it reaches the surface where it's 32 or below, and we're expecting about 19 degrees overnight in San Antonio, that's freezing on contact. That's freezing on tree limbs. That's freezing on power lines. That's freezing on your cars. Park your cars in the garage if you can, especially if you have to head out tomorrow morning. That's on the sidewalks. So, a lot of you have dogs and pets. If you have to walk them tomorrow morning, just be mindful that some of the sidewalks may be a little icy, because when you pick up 1/100th to a tenth of an inch, it doesn't cause disruptive major problems, but anywhere from 1/100th to a tenth of an inch of ice can cause somewhat of a nuisance and minor problems on the roads, on bridges, and around your neighborhood. So sidewalks will get icy tomorrow morning with temperatures starting out near 20 degrees. Through 7 and 8 a.m. tomorrow morning, we'll remain in that intensity and coverage of scattered to numerous light areas of rain and drizzle and mist. It's not going to be heavy, but it's going to be enough to accumulate. And that's the biggest and largest concern with temperatures in the middle to lower 20s. Again, freezing on contact, and that can cause major delays in icy bridges, icy overpasses. And some of them may be closed by tomorrow morning if they're not already closed, especially like I-10, 1604 crossover, 281, 1604, 35 upper level ramps downtown. If they're not already closed, avoid them just because of the elevated surface of those roads, and those will freeze first because they're surrounded by very cold air at lower to middle 20s. Notice through the late morning hours, it'll start to taper off. Yes, there may be a lingering sprinkle or light area of drizzle 1, 2 p.m. tomorrow, but most of it is out, and temperatures will try to recover. We're going for a high temperature near 33 tomorrow, but right now the high resolution models are saying upper 20s for highs with a breezy north-northwest wind. So cloudy, cold, damp tomorrow morning, and not much of a recovery tomorrow afternoon. Cloudy and dry for tomorrow night, and skies will eventually clear. And remember, when skies clear, that's one of 3 things you need for extremely cold overnight temperature. So we already have the Arctic air moving in, but once things calm down and the clouds move out, all the heat that's retained during the day escapes out into space, what we call radiational cooling. If it's not breezy, temperatures will rapidly fall, and you'll see by early Tuesday morning, it says about 19 to 18 with 13 to 14 degrees waiting for us in Kerrville. Good chance that's a few degrees colder when we're actually there Tuesday morning. Maybe down to 16 in San Antonio, maybe down to 10 degrees in the hill country. Sometimes these forecast models, they're a little aggressive and they overdo sometimes the temperature. We just know when skies clear and winds calm down in the overnights, that's a recipe for very, very cold overnight temperatures. So again, tomorrow morning, light rain, freezing precip, freezing drizzle. That'll freeze on contact. As a matter of fact, here's a look at a forecast model. I'll stop it by late tomorrow night because we don't need to go all the way to Wednesday. Right there, because we may see a lingering sprinkle by 2 o'clock. So here are some of the forecast ice totals tomorrow. 0.06 in San Antonio on average. That's on the higher side. I will say pretty much on average, it'll be between 100th to 0.05. So like 5/100ths of an inch, so not much, but still enough to cause problems. There will be some localized pockets north of Seguin towards San Marcos, Fredericksburg, and across Blanco County that could easily pick up 1/10 to maybe 1/4, but that's north of San Antonio. Big takeaway, north of San Antonio, higher ice totals, higher rain totals, and not much out west. So Del Rio, Eagle Pass, you really won't have to worry about this concern. But if you're driving anywhere on Highway 90 from Uvalde to Hondo to San Antonio, or I-37 between here and Corpus Christi, or I-10 east towards Houston, or even I-35 and towards the hill country on I-10, all going to have minor to moderate impacts on the roads. Something to definitely keep in mind. And largest concern, again, elevated surfaces, bridges, overpasses, flyovers, things of that nature because of how high they are off the ground, and with colder air surrounding it, and you introduce rain accumulating on those surfaces, they're going to freeze fast. But again, we've seen ice storms before, obviously, and some of those more major ice events produced ice amounts between 1/10 to 1/4 to 1/2 an inch of ice on the higher side. So when you're talking about ice totals on the lighter side between 0.01 and 1/10, it's more of minor to moderate issues and primarily on the elevated surfaces, bridges, overpasses, things like that. So again, tomorrow's a holiday, MLK Monday. If you don't have to travel, don't. If you absolutely have to get on the roads, if you're going back to work, be very careful. Take the secondary surface roads. Take the roads that are connected to the ground and not the ones that are going up and down off the ground. Those can be tricky because of the colder air on the bottom side, and they surround it. And again, those kind of surfaces can freeze very fast and very rapidly. And then when you introduce rain, it's a whole nother story, and they can freeze even faster. And that's what we're expecting overnight. So driving conditions, anywhere from Dallas to Houston to here, and even towards Beeville and Corpus Christi, parts of Corpus Christi, we'll observe moderate amounts of freezing rain, freezing drizzle. Again, not up to 1/4 of an inch of ice, but somewhere around 100th to 1/10 of an inch on average around the San Antonio metro. And that'll cause moderate driving conditions, icy elevated surfaces. Trees, we'll see a little bit of accumulation. Something to keep in mind, especially if you have any large trees in your front backyard. Sometimes ice can cause branches to break, and with it being breezy outside, of course, that can always cause problems. But mostly vehicles, you'll notice if you don't park it in the garage tomorrow morning, you will notice a glazing of ice. on your windshield, on your hood, and also obviously all around your car because of rain moving through. Again, not heavy rain, but very light rain that'll freeze on contact, and that'll result into icy cars, icy sidewalks, icy part of bridges, icy parts of roads. Again, the secondary surface roads, those roads that are connected to the ground, they're retaining heat at a better level. So main roads should be fine, but it's just those higher elevation, higher surface roads that are a problem. And again, out west, not much of a problem, more minor to zero problems out west towards Del Rio and Eagle Pass. So this really quickly, ice accumulating impacts. So we talked about disruptive and crippling ice accumulation amounts when trees are damaged and you see more power outages. That's primarily focused for 1/4 of an inch of ice or more. And you can see some outages with 1/10 to 1/4, but what we're expecting is more of that left side, the nuisance category, where surfaces may be a little icy. Again, roads, higher elevated surfaces, parts of your car will be icy tomorrow morning. Sidewalks will get a little icy, and your trees will accumulate and gather ice as well. But just want to show you that, in past events, past ice storms, past winter weather events that we saw higher amounts, that was more in the 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch range. And we're looking at nothing like that. So I just want to compare and contrast that while we will see ice accumulate overnight, and it will cause some minor to moderate problems, especially on bridges and overpasses, it could be a lot worse. We could see disruptive to crippling ice amounts. And while there will be some localized pockets across Austin, across the hill country that see 1/10 to 1/4, most of San Antonio around our metro, between Bernie to Stinson to Hondo to Seguin to Atascosa County, mostly in that nuisance category, 1/100th to 1/10 of an inch of rain and ice accumulation. Again, rain falling and freezing on contact, and that'll create slippery roads and slippery sidewalks and creating somewhat of a nuisance tomorrow morning. So we're looking at a high of near 34, but based on the high resolution models, maybe up to 30 for tomorrow for a forecast high. We may not even budge above freezing, and that's something to definitely monitor. We'll do that here at Ken's 5 for you. We're looking at a forecast low Tuesday morning, 18 degrees, high temperature near 45. 45 Wednesday for high temperature, and same thing for the overnight low. Now, if you're watching from the hill country, Fredericksburg, Kerrville, Rock Springs, Lakey, likely lower, closer to 10 degrees on Tuesday morning, maybe 11 or 12. And wind chills may be in the single digits. So while the rest of the week is dry, it will be cold, especially in the overnights. It is brutally cold. We haven't been this cold in a while, probably not since last winter, right? And then a rebound in temperatures Thursday, 62. That'll feel nice. Above freezing in the overnight and the afternoons. Another surge of cold moving through closer to the weekend, and more cloud cover building in on Saturday and Sunday. But highs in the 50s. Close to average, but this entire week for the most part, with the exception of Thursday, will be way below the January normal. So this is a cold pattern, and it will stay like this at least for the next several days. Morning temperatures will be cold. Make sure you remember the 4 Ps: people, pets, plants, and pipes. Check up on your neighbors. Make sure they're doing okay. Pipes, of course, wrap any exterior faucets. Let your interior faucets drip. Open your cabinets to help the ambient air to flow through, because everyone's running their heaters, right? So you want the air temperature that's created from the heater to surround your pipes in the kitchen and your bathrooms. So keeping the cabinets open will help the ambient air flow through, helping to mitigate the threat of freezing pipes and bursting pipes. So again, open the cabinets. Try not to, run any large amount of laundry or run the dishwasher. Just trying to conserve energy between about 4 a.m. and 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. Everyone's going to be heating their houses, so be very careful. But anyway, Tuesday and early Wednesday, 18 degrees. By lunchtime, the rain should come to an end tomorrow. We do have hard freeze warnings, wind chill advisories in effect. Wind chills as low as 10 to 11 overnight, and very similar for Tuesday and early Wednesday as wind speeds gradually come down by the middle of the week. What else? We're talking about the 4 Ps: people, pets. Obviously, bring in your pets. They do not want to be outside. People, pets, plants. Cover your plants. If you haven't covered them, if you haven't brought them inside, already, do so tonight. It's already below freezing. And insulate your pipes and check on your neighbors. So yeah, the 4 Ps, and we have a graphic on that too. I think we have it somewhere, but anyway, yeah, so that's a 7-day forecast, guys. MLK Monday, we're looking at a high of maybe 34, but depending on how much rain falls and how much cloud cover really sticks around will dictate more about how fast in recovery our temperatures get. So we'll actually have to adjust this because we're thinking about 19 to 20 for an overnight low for San Antonio, for at least the airport. All right, let's see. I have to make sure my phone's working a-okay and get back to the live. Perfect, perfect. Road closures. Let's see. Mist and flurries in Bulverde and Spring Ranch. Yeah, so we saw a little bit of a mist and drizzle, earlier this evening in the San Antonio area. But if you're seeing a little bit of snow, we looked at the radar. It's not picking up on anything. So a lot of the rain that's falling from the sky is almost just in the form of mist, drizzle, and a lot of it is actually evaporating before it hits the surface. You can see in Northeast Texas there is some rain. There's some precip out there, between there and Louisiana and parts of Arkansas where they're seeing snow flurries on the radar. But then you zoom into San Antonio, it's just very hard, very difficult to pick up on the rain that's falling in the atmosphere right now because it's so light. So while there is mist and drizzle out there, it actually showing up on the radar, we'll probably have to wait till the overnight until it gets more intense, until it increases in coverage. Then we'll eventually see it on the radar. But right now it's dry, but we are seeing and getting some reports of mist and drizzle and maybe even some flurries up farther north of San Antonio. So, of course, send in your photos, video. That'd be certainly very helpful. Ken's news desk at kens5.com. Or you can send your photos and videos through the KENS5 app. Either or, Ken's news desk at kens5.com or through the KENS5 app, you can submit your photos and videos. All that helps out significantly just because obviously we have radar, we have satellite, we have a lot of resources at our disposal to look at the weather, but when you actually send in your photos and your content to us, it helps immensely at evaluating what's happening around the area. The Weather Service helps us with that as well, but when you, the viewer, actually send us photos and video, especially if anything is heavier than we're expecting, maybe in the Bulverde area, maybe in the Bernie or in the Hill Country area, and if you send it to us, that really does help, so please feel free to send in your photos and videos. That really does help. George, any snow? No snow. We're not expecting any snow. There are some flurries up farther north on radar, obviously towards other parts of the country, right? Arkansas, Mississippi, parts of Alabama. And you can see Tennessee and Kentucky, they're just getting a lot of snow right there, right? That's where the weather's a little bit more active. And while there is mist and drizzle around San Antonio right now, it's already accumulating on the cars. If you go outside, you'll probably notice a thin layer of glaze of ice on your car. Despite that, we're not seeing anything measurable popping up on the radar. But again, in the next several hours, we'll begin to continue to see that pop up on radar as it gets more intense. Avoid any elevated surface. The highways tomorrow, guys, we have the hard freeze warnings, wind chill warnings in effect, winter weather advisories in effect through tomorrow. Let's see. It is very, very cold outside. Tony said accident in Bernie, there's icy roads. Yeah. Yep, absolutely. We'll take a look at our traffic graphics and we'll double check. But I'm sure you have to be very careful. The elevated surfaces, the ice accumulating, it will be in very light amounts, but still that very small amount, 1/100th to 1/10 of an inch, can still cause some minor problems. So please be careful out there. Your TV went out? No. Yeah, Facebook, we're trying to keep you guys updated, of course, with the weather getting a little bit more worse in the overnight. Again, nothing heavy, nothing severe, but with any rain accumulating on the roads between 1/100th to 1/10 of an inch, that can cause problems, minor to moderate problems, especially on the highways, elevated surfaces, things like that. It's cold outside, guys. If you're just joining in, it is freezing everywhere from Pleasanton to the Hill Country, Bernie at 23, between downtown and the airport and Helotes, 24 degrees. In our area, in our metro, no one's in the teens just yet, but notice Austin is at 19, and so is the Hill Country at 19 at Fredericksburg. So it's very cold up there as well. Let's just go through the hour by hour one more time, guys. So right now we're seeing drizzle, mist, things of that nature. By about 1 a.m., you'll see it increases in coverage. And when you see the pink on this futurecast model, it's rain falling, obviously, but freezing on contact because everywhere is underneath 32 degrees. So again, main concerns, your cars, there's going to be a layer of ice on those, on power lines, on trees, on sidewalks, on bridges, overpasses, flyovers. They're all going to see at least some rain accumulation overnight. And again, they're freezing on contact. The rain's falling and freezing on the surface immediately because it's so cold outside, it's below freezing, and that's the only thing left to do when it's freezing and rain falls from the sky. And it's the most dangerous type of precip because it can happen so fast, and if you're driving and you're not paying attention, you can slide very quickly. Monday morning, 9 a.m., the timestamp is in the upper right-hand corner. You can see 26 in San Antonio. Temperatures will struggle to get out of the 20s all day, it looks like, based on our latest forecast run. By lunchtime, there may be a lingering sprinkle, lingering light drizzle, freezing rain, but most of us will be dry by the latter half of the day. There may be some lingering showers to the south near Corpus Christi, near the Texas coast, Port Lavaca, Bay City, Hallettsville, down I-10 east towards Houston. But most of us generally will be drier by this time tomorrow night because of clearing conditions. Latest model run still says some lingering rain the farther south of I-10 towards George West, Beeville by late tomorrow night. But main takeaway, main trend is clearing skies slowly by Tuesday morning, and you'll see by in the overnight it is extremely cold pre-dawn Tuesday, and this will be a very similar setup for pre-dawn Wednesday. Temperatures in the teens, likely close to 13, 14, maybe 12 to 11 degrees across the hill country. Factor in the winds, wind chill values will be in the single digits, so be very mindful. And it's going to be very cold for the next couple of days. Of course, wrap your pipes, insulate them, drip your faucets and things like that because freezing temperatures are expected overnight. Another look at future ice totals, between 100th to 1/10 of an inch on average around the San Antonio area. There will be a localized pockets up to 1/10 to 1/4 between Austin and Fredericksburg, where the intensity of rain is a little bit higher, but most of us will see light rain and just light freezing drizzle over the next couple of days. You can see Sarah, please make sure your pets are warm. Absolutely. They don't like the cold. We don't like the cold, so please take care of your pets. Bring them inside if you haven't already, and be very, very careful. Accident and Bernie, Tony says. Yeah, so obviously tomorrow's a holiday. We've talked about this. If you don't have to be on the roads, don't avoid any unnecessary travel. Again, they're probably already starting to shut down the elevated surfaces, the highways, the crossovers, the flyovers. If they haven't already, please just use secondary surface roads. Don't worry about getting on the highways. Just try and stay on the road, the main road that's attached to the ground versus the bridges and highways that go above the ground. Those freeze first because of the surrounding freezing air. And then when you bring rain into the equation, it creates a bad setup, so please be careful. Will there be any snow? We're not expecting snow, unfortunately. We are not expecting that, Chris. Anywhere north of Waco, probably a few snow flurries. But here in San Antonio, mainly just freezing rain, freezing drizzle, and mostly light activity and light rain. Absolutely. So very cold out there. That's a look at the forecast ice totals. Anywhere in this purple area, the lighter purple, the lighter shade of purple, moderate driving conditions. That means icy elevated surfaces, bridges, trees, and vehicles will be the main things that are impacted. Sidewalks will be icy as well. Minor impacts out west between Rock Springs, Del Rio, Eagle Pass, not much of a concern. Based on the latest model runs, Del Rio and Eagle Pass get up to about 40 degrees tomorrow. San Antonio, not so lucky, and it looks like we'll probably struggle to get out of the 20s tomorrow, maybe as high as 30 to 31 for a forecast high. So there's a chance we may stay below freezing between now and through tomorrow night and even Tuesday afternoon. So there may be a time, I'll make a graphic on this, where we're actually going to be below freezing for probably a good a total duration of maybe 24 to 36 hours, because we've been below freezing all day long for the most part as the front came in. And I'll look at when exactly we went below freezing. I can always do that and take a look at the weather service. Let's see, we have wind advised. No, that's not true. Let's see. There we go. Winter weather advisories, freeze warnings, and wind chill warnings. So let me just look at the data and see when we went below freezing, and that'll give me a better idea of how much time we'll spend below freezing. Let's see. So air temperature, we've been in the 20s since about 5 o'clock. Man, that's been cold. And then we went below freezing right around 2:50 this afternoon. We were at 32, but that's still freezing, right? So we've actually haven't been, the last time we were above freezing was earlier this morning at 5:50. And after pretty much 6 a.m. this morning, we've been at or below freezing. So from 6 a.m. to 6 a.m. tomorrow, that's 24 hours. And then there's a chance we may not get above freezing tomorrow. So through Tuesday morning, 6 a.m., that's 48 hours. And Tuesday afternoon, we should get above freezing, probably in the upper 30s, lower 40s. It'll be sunny on Tuesday. It'll be clear, and then we'll emerge above freezing. But right now, from looking at when we reached freezing earlier this morning, and the next time we'll be above freezing, that'll be about 48 hours at or below 32 degrees. So from 5 a.m. this morning to 5 a.m. tomorrow morning to 5 a.m. Early Tuesday, that's 2 days under freezing. And then Tuesday afternoon will be above probably about 40 degrees Tuesday afternoon. So I'll make something on that. We'll have more of this at 10 o'clock tonight. Me and Bill will be talking about the weather forecast this evening on Ken's 5 News at 10, so tune in. But again, yeah, so if you don't have to travel tomorrow, avoid any unnecessary travel. If you don't have to, don't be on the roads just because of the light rain around tomorrow morning. Just to reiterate it, tomorrow around 2 a.m., that's when it really increases in coverage, especially around San Antonio. Same thing through about 9 and 10 a.m. It starts to back off slowly, but there will be lingering areas of drizzle and mist through tomorrow evening and tomorrow night, mainly south of I-10. By late tomorrow night, early Tuesday, skies clear, and that'll lead to temperatures in the teens, pretty much widespread across South Texas. And main threat for ice accumulation is mainly tomorrow morning. Through the latter half of the morning and early afternoon, between 0.06 and 1/10 of an inch of ice, which again is not disrupting, but it is causing a glazing of ice on elevated surfaces, vehicles, cars, sidewalks, bridges, overpasses, things like that. So it is going to create moderate to maybe in localized areas major problems on the roads. Again, highest concern is the elevated surfaces for that happening. Again, we're not expecting much more than 1/10 of an inch accumulating, but that will still cause problems on the roads. 7-day forecast, guys, shows this right here. Tomorrow, upper 20s to lower 30s. We may have to bring that 34 down to maybe 32 or 31 for a high temperature. It is going to be cold, cloudy, and wet tomorrow morning. Please be mindful. Stay tuned. Paul Morellas, Jeremy Baker, and Maggie Laughlin will be here tomorrow morning, keeping an eye on the roads. Jessica Coombs and our anchors, whole Ken's 5 weather team will be here tomorrow throughout the day, just kind of monitoring the conditions for MLK Monday. And then again, on Tuesday, highs rebound to the middle 40s, but it starts out in the teens. So any lingering moisture, any leftover rain on the roads should dry out, but anything that stays with us could be a concern Tuesday morning, but it will generally dry out Tuesday, Wednesday, and for the rest of the week. Highs near 62 on Thursday. A little cooler Friday, Saturday, and Sunday will be below average this entire week. The average January day goes from 41 in the morning to about 63 in the afternoon. And then notice we are way colder than average. Next few days, by Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday, we're a little closer to the January normal, but still cooler than normal here in San Antonio. Be safe, guys, tomorrow. We are going to leave weather graphics up probably for the next several hours. We'll probably cancel this live stream. We'll launch another one probably in the next 20 to 30 minutes. It'll loop radar. It'll loop current forecast ice accumulation values. It'll loop driving forecast conditions. It'll loop the forecast models, kind of what to expect hour by hour, and the latest forecast. So we'll be getting off very soon. We'll be on live Ken's 5 at 10 o'clock and 10:30. Me and Bill will be talking about the weather. Me and Bill Taylor about freezing rain, impacts, things like that. A lot of what we talked about on this live stream. But yeah, so we're going to leave it on the forecast a little bit longer. We'll cancel this one in about 10 minutes or so. And then after that, probably around 9:45 or 10, we'll relaunch another stream, and that'll loop weather graphics, show you what radar is saying, what the latest models are saying, the temperature forecasts, the 7-day and futurecast ice totals, which again, if you're just joining us, is looking right now for tomorrow morning, 100th to a 10th of an inch on ice accumulation around the area, less out west, more ice accumulation up north with localized pockets between a 10th to a quarter near Austin, San Marcos, Fredericksburg, and north of the Hill Country. So we'll leave it on the forecast a little longer, guys. Stay tuned for that additional launch for weather graphics, and we'll obviously be live on KENS 5 News at 10 and 10:30. So tune in, be safe, stay warm. If you have to drive out tomorrow morning, be very safe. Stay to the secondary surface roads that are not, elevated. Those are going to be freezing first. Bridges, overpasses, any elevated surface will freeze first between now and tomorrow morning as rain coverage increases through about 5 a.m. tomorrow morning and doesn't really taper off until late Monday morning into Monday afternoon. So stay safe, guys. Stay warm, and we'll see you tonight on KENS 5 News at 10. Be safe and drive carefully, drive safely, and be vigilant out on the roads.